Now it's time to put on a set of tires. We have all sorts of tires at MotoSport.com. We have Dunlop, Bridgestone, R-Trax. Scratching my front fender already. It's a little warmer out today, and that's always a better time to do it. We're gonna get this Michelin Starcross 6 tire, mounted up on this Rims Plus wheel, and we're gonna be set to jet. First things first, you want something between your spokes and your tube so it doesn't pop your tube. It comes with a rubber rim strip, but we can do better. Duct tape will seal around the top of every spoke nipple and won't allow dirt down in. When the dirt gets in there, it'll seize the spoke on and it'll act like it's tight, but it's really not. You wouldn't think there'd be a lot of dirt that would get down in your tire, but between the hole for the valve stem, the rim lock, and the extra hole that's sometimes covered with a rubber plug, there's more dirt that gets down there than you would think. Whenever you do this, you want to get the best quality tape that you can find. And I've always had really good luck with this Gorilla Tape. As far as the width, the front tire, a little bit less than half. The back tire, I'll use the rest of it. Try to stick it down as good as you can here. I always try to make 2 rounds on this just to make sure I get it all covered. Any more than that's not really necessary. Now you want to make sure all the duct tape is stuck down around the spokes and between the spokes. Otherwise, you might as well just use a rim strip. You can do this with a heat gun, but I kind of prefer a little bit faster method because it takes a while with the heat gun, and I use a torch. But if you're using a torch, make sure not to use the rubber gloves that you're wearing to change the tire. If you heat it up a little bit too hot, it's not a big deal with these gloves on like this, and it's easier to stick down. No more dirt's getting in there. A lot better than a rim strip, and you're probably going to get less flat tires this way. Now what you want to do is go through and find the valve stem and the rim lock hole and cut out a spot in the duct tape for that. Sometimes the valve stem and the rim lock, or there'll be 2 holes that are close together, and those are the ones I try to use whenever they are. One thing you never want to forget is to put your rim lock in, because you'll get that tire on and you will not be happy when there's no rim lock in there. The first thing you really got to pay attention to is which direction the arrow on the side of the tire is pointing. Not all tires have that, but if you don't put it the right way, it might not work as well as it should. Some people will put the tube in before they put the other side of the tire on, but I don't necessarily like doing that. I pinched a lot of tubes that way. When you're changing a tire, it's very beneficial to have a stand to do it on, not doing it on a trash can or a 5-gallon bucket, which we've all done a time or two at the track, but it's just not ideal. So it doesn't move, I stand with my feet on the bottom of this tire changing stand, and I'll push my weight against where this rim lock is at to keep this tire down in the valley on this side. That way it has room to go over on this side. I'll go to where the rim lock is at first, push it out. Stick the tire on the other side right in there, and then pull this side over. So this part, the bottom, is down in the valley, which is the lowest part of the rim, and this part is above. That gives room over here to pull the tire on all the way like you need to. If you want to make life a lot easier, take some WD-40 and a rag and wipe it around the outsides of this tire before you put it on. I make sure not to take too big of a bite. And what I mean by that is try not to put on too much at the same time. So if you want to avoid scratching your rim and it gets to this point where the tire is almost on, I'll put a few different tire irons in there so I can get it all done at once without having to stuff another one in there and scratching it up. What you got to make sure to pay attention to whenever you do this is the order that they're stacked. This one goes first, so it's on top, then this one sits on top, and this one. You also got to hold on to make sure that these don't fall out, because that'll happen easy too. And normally I would use baby powder on this, but I ended up just using WD-40 because I didn't have any. And I don't have a brake rotor anyway, so I don't have to worry about getting it on there. This is kind of the reason that some people put the tube in before they put the tire on, because it's a little bit of a booger to get all this in here afterwards. But at least I have already cut down the chances of pinching my tube because I'm just putting it in. A lot of times I find it helpful to get the valve stem in. If I go to the other side and I'll use a tire iron to pull this out a little bit, then I'll set the tire down on the stand and the tire stand will hold it in place. And if you got fat fingers like this guy, you need the tire iron for one side and the HP Tools screwdriver for the other side. Another good thing about the duct tape is you don't have to worry about the hole of that rim strip moving over a little bit and you're not being able to find it with your valve stem. Once the valve stem's in, you want to make sure to tighten this nut down with your fingers as much as possible, That way, whenever you get the rest of the tire on there, the tube doesn't spin too much. Then you want to put a little bit of air in there to make sure the tube comes out and seats where it needs to, and it doesn't have any folds for the tire iron to catch and pinch. I like to also use this Motion Pro bead buddy. I'll put the tire irons in a spot where I can use this and not have to worry about chasing the tire around the rim when it keeps coming off. You can kind of do the same thing with a rim lock, but it's a little easier with this bead buddy. Make sure your tube's out of the way and you're not going to pinch it, because then you're just going to be doing this whole thing for nothing. And you're not going to even find out you pinched it until you get done. I always try to put them in 2 at a time so I don't risk scratching the wheel any more than I have to. And take little bites. And if you need to even, you can let the force up on this side just so you can get this one in. Just make sure to use your feel and know that you're not pinching the tube. With it aired up, it'll help out because it'll stay out of the way better. Remember at the beginning when I talked about the tire being down in the valley? Whenever you're almost done with the tire and it gets the hardest to put on, that's when you really got to make sure that the other side is pushed down. Because if it's not, you're going to have a lot of trouble and you're just going to be fighting it. So this is the point again, where if you want to avoid a scratched rim, you got to have an extra set of tire irons. Take small bites and life will be much easier. This is the point where you want to make sure that your valve stem is straight. If it's not, hold on to the spoke and pull the tire one way or the other. Whenever I get done, I always make sure to put a number that I'll remember. I was going to say 20 pounds, that's exactly what it was. Man, I lucked out on that one. I always put a number that I'll remember so that way I can make sure it hasn't lost any. If you pinch the little hole, sometimes it won't blow out right away. It'll take it a while, so I want to make sure that it's still 20 whenever I get it on and get ready to ride. After that, clean all the WD-40, all the stuff off on the tire. Man, these are good looking wheels. Rims Plus did me a good job lacing up these DID STX rims. These things are available on the site also. I've had really good luck with not bending or getting flat spots on these things. These have been through a lot of hard landings off of ramps and big jumps. And there we have it. We got a DID STX rim and a Michelin Starcross 6 tire. Let's go ride.